Hello there. Good evening. You are on the lifeboat. This is Captain Calhoun. Trying to get centered here, baby. How is everybody? Happy Wednesday. You guys know what today is? Today is the Tara Smiling interview. Valerie 102, Blessed to Crochet, Krista Melinda, Shauna 1972, Seventh Son. Good to see you guys. Love it. Hey there. How are you? Today we have Tara Smiling. I'm going to give you guys a second to show up, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. She's just hanging out in the back right now with nothing to do, so I feel a little bad. But not really. She's having a great time back there. I can see. Minsk, hey there. Good to see you. Welcome in. Just Pauline, Rolling Stone, Brandon Calloway, Tommy Bird, Pajama Pixie. Fantastic. Good to see all of you. I'm good, love it. Thanks for asking. I discovered some things today, some kind of like revelations in my life that just make you feel better knowing the truth. You know what I mean? And I guess I'll leave that as a cliffhanger because I'm not going to tell you about it till later because it's not about me today. Today it's about Tara Smiling. And there she is.
Hi. Hey, Spanks. Hey,
How are
everyone.
you?
I'm chilling. I'm doing great. Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. How are you?
I am fantastic. I slept better than I thought I would, but I have been pretty excited. Looking forward to this.
Well, that makes one of us because I did not sleep well at all. I was so excited. My brain was doing jumping jacks and cartwheels all night long.
Tonight should be better then.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
We can decompress after if you'd like.
I'll need to eat after. That'll probably help.
Yeah, for sure. Heather, Rolling Stone, good to see you guys. Cool. Well, I'm just gonna jump right into it. I'm so excited to have you on the channel. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I think it was like pretty close to, I can't remember exactly when I first noticed you, but you've pretty much been here the whole time that I've been in the chair.
Yep.
And more than that, most likely. And I guess I'll ask you about that. We'll get to it. But I think the first thing I want to ask you, Tara, is how did you get the name Tara Smiling?
Well, it's been a journey. So it's actually kind of embarrassing where the whole thing originated from. Originally, I wanted to go with Tara Smiles because that's my goal, is to be joyful, to find joy in whatever it is that I'm doing in the moment. I quit my job in 2016 to travel, and I spent 5 years living in my car, and I chose the name Tara Smiling about 2 years into it. I tried, so I hope this is appropriate to share on your channel and on my channel. Hey, Mom, if you're watching this, hey, Mom. So I tried to get Tara Smiles first, because it was an active, present moment type of name. And my goal is to be as happy as I possibly can be when I can. You know, I'm not always smiling, and it's not realistic to think that. But yeah. I tried to get Tara Smiles, but it's an adult film star. And so unfortunately I couldn't get that name, but Tara Smiling was available on all the platforms. So I jumped on that. And I've thought about losing it a couple times, but people have said, you know, don't change your name. We love your name. And so I just chose to keep it, even though it's not always fitting, especially in early recovery. I wasn't smiling very much, but it's stuck. So here we are.
Cool. Sweet. Well, I really dig your handle. And that's partly what sparked the curiosity there.
Thank you.
You do have a wonderful smile, if you don't mind me saying.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely contagious. I think I've said that to you before. I'll watch your videos and just be cheese grinning at my computer, and it's kind of fun.
That's nice. You know, smiles are, they say smiles are contagious. And research shows that if you smile, even if you're not happy, you know, if you're having a bad day, and it's not always possible to do this, but if I'm having a bad day, I do what the research says and I kind of force a smile.
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily convincing to other people, but it triggers neural pathways in your brain that tell you that you're experiencing joy. So
Interesting.
sometimes it can be helpful, not all the time, but sometimes.
I sometimes employ that, but never consciously. So that's interesting. I'll have to think about that in the future.
Right on.
Christian B, good to see ya. Heck yeah, everybody. And I think at the end, maybe we'll, if Tara's willing, maybe we can open up to crowd questions, to fan questions, if you will. Fans of Tara.
I think they're fans of you. I think Spanks has a fan club.
Tamber, June, welcome in. Well, all right. This is kind of a run-of-the-mill question, but it'll lead me to greener pastures, which is the goal, is to get to know you a little better. What are some of your interests?
Oh, good
This one will be
question.
fun too.
Yeah, that's a really good question to lead with. So I have gone through kind of a weird phase the past few years where I've lost touch with some of my interests, but the things that I'm working on really getting back to, I've got back to rock climbing. I love rock climbing so much. Indoors, outdoors, everywhere. I used to kind of turn my nose up at gym climbing because I learned to climb outside in Yosemite, and it's hard to compete with Yosemite once you've been there. But I just love climbing, cracks in particular. So we've talked about our drugs of choice before, and I know what yours is. And I went through a period of time where I was using the dirty white stuff as well. But there's so many jokes in climbing. I love climbing cracks, so that makes me a crackhead.
Lol.
Yeah. So climbing would be a huge one. Surfing is something that I lived for. When I was living in my car, it's literally what kept me going because I was dependent and addicted to drugs. Alcohol is something that I had forced myself to let go of at that point, but that was hard too. But so anyways, rock climbing, surfing, I love listening to music. Although I have to tell on myself, I always tell people when they ask me, I haven't told you this yet, Spanks, but I've always told people when they ask me what your favorite type of music is, I'm like, you know what? I love pretty much every type of music except for metal.
Nice.
But
I don't take it personally. That's pretty normal.
But I think, someone brought up The Land of Confusion. I forget who it was, and I apologize. Someone brought up The Land of Confusion by Disturbed song.
I believe it was either, I shouldn't speak on it. I was thinking Matrix Rabbit or Rolling Stone, but
yeah, that sounds right. And I actually listened to that song that night because I was like, I dig that song. Is that metal? Because I like that song. Probably there are songs that I would like if I was exposed to them. I just haven't sought out a whole lot of metal in my life. So music is a huge interest of mine. I am really into meditation, positive affirmations. I actually recorded a positive affirmation right before I entered recovery. It's on SoundCloud for free if anybody's interested. It's under Tara Smiling, if I can say my own handle. I feel like it catapulted me. The whole positive. What's that? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yeah, it's free. It's hard sometimes to listen to when I get to the end of that sound file because I was still in my addiction when I recorded that. It was about 2 weeks before I got into recovery.
Wow.
And I had been praying to get clean and sober for a long time. And I listened to my own voice with these affirmations that I recorded over on SoundCloud every day, multiple times a day for a couple weeks. And here we are 3 years later, I'm still clean and sober. So
good for you, by the way. That is killer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm actually happy about it these days. It's been rough. I'm just going to be completely transparent. It hasn't been a smiling road the whole time. The first few years, and maybe even a little more than that, were really challenging for me, to be honest. But I found the smile again. I found the joy again, and I'm starting to embark in things that I let go because they were kind of triggering, to be honest. Like surfing, again, full disclosure, I haven't surfed in my recovery. I have started rock climbing again, but I'm so, I think, terrified of someone offering me something once we get out of the water. That used to happen constantly. Like I'd meet people in the water and then we get high afterwards. And my life is so much better these days now that I'm properly medicated that like I don't want to go back to using. I don't have permission anyways for my nurse practitioner. She said it's off limits for me right now.
Yeah, you don't have permission from the lifeboat either to go using.
Yeah, thanks.
No permission.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks for holding me accountable. I appreciate that. So I would say like the meditation, the positive affirmation thing catapulted me into recovery. And that's been a huge interest of mine the past few years. Like AA was a huge part of my life. And I know that's kind of a nerdy thing to say, well, I was interested in AA, but
make it work. To like really work it, you have to really get doubly all the way involved. At least that was my experience. So
I was involved all right. I was 100% fully in. I think we made a joke I made a joke the other night. I was double fisting the Kool-Aid. Like I had Kool-Aid in both hands. And for anybody who's still into AA, I'm certainly not talking poorly about the fellowship at all. It was a great place for me to start. But these days I am doing a lot of YouTube, and I just started a Patreon. So my interests, and I just started a new job actually as well. So my interests are sort of like getting, and I'm building my own peer support agency. So aside from like the climbing and the surfing and meditation and affirmations and all of that, I'm doing some professional things, and I would call those interests as well.
You are a lady of many interests.
It's true.
Which is not a bad thing. That's pretty cool. I think that's pretty impressive, especially coming back from the depths of addiction. You know, you said you're three years and change clean and sober, and look at you now. Look at what you're getting into. I think that's really cool. That is an inspiring and hope-filled story, and I think that's what we're going to get into now. But first, I'd like to ask you, how'd you find the lifeboat?
So
we're probably going to skip a bunch of chapters here, but that's intentional.
The short answer is that I heard about you all on Carol's channel. Carol just changed her name to Carol Needs a Meeting.
And Lifeboat needs a meeting too, let me tell you.
Tara needs a meeting too.
Yeah.
To get to Tara Smiling, Tara needs a meeting also. I have someone that I met on a different channel. I met her over at this channel called Kickin' Addiction, and he's not active anymore, but she is the one who sent me a link one day to Carol's stream. And she's like, this woman is awesome. She goes live every single day. She hosts great meetings. And so I started watching and I started chatting, and then I started actually participating on the streams. And I heard about, people kept talking about Tommy and the lifeboat, and I heard about y'all for a few weeks, maybe even a month before I was like, all right, I got to check these people out because I got to figure out what all the fuss is about. They were wild about you all. So that's how I found you.
That's so cool to hear. Shout out to Carol and friends for shouting us out. We appreciate that.
Yeah, they talk you up so much. I had to check it out.
I'm pretty sure at that time it was my dad doing the things too. Shout out to my dad too. What a guy. So I don't know if I ordered these right. So give me just a second to get my bearings. So we talked about our DOCs and kind of got to know each other a little bit on Discord the other night. But we haven't talked about any of that publicly, or today at least. And I also want to say you don't have to talk about anything that you don't want to talk about. But I am going to ask you about some things that I'm curious about, right? So don't feel pressured. I'm not going to ask you anything absolutely ridiculous, but you might not want to answer some of these questions. But
that may be true, but I'm a pretty open book. I'll definitely be like, I'm not going to answer that question yet, or now, or on the live stream, but maybe I'll tell you later, type of thing. We'll see.
So I will say I'm going to ask you a little bit about a little bit about your Instagram. I'm going to ask you about living in your car. You mentioned that, and we're going to get into recovery.
Oh.
Where on your timeline did you start partying? When did you get involved with drugs and alcohol?
If you're a family member and you don't know this about me already, I apologize in advance. I started partying when I was 15 years old. I started drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana at 15.
You said marijuana and drinking?
Yeah.
Me too. I might have been 16, but it was right around that time.
Okay. I feel like it's not super young compared. Some people start at 12 and I'm like, wow,
I've heard some crazy stuff.
Yeah, but it is young. We're still babies when we're 15 and 16.
Absolutely. If I could go back, I would probably wait a little while. I don't know though. It's hard to say. Like, that's a kind of a weird thing to say. I am who I am today because of those experiences, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I do wonder though sometimes, and I wouldn't change anything, but I do wonder sometimes where my life would have led me, how it might be different. I can't help it, like a butterfly effect type of situation, but I wouldn't change anything. I'm super psyched to be right here, right now.
That made me think of a question that I'm just going to ask you, like on the spot. Do you ever think about, like, you just said you think about like how your life would be different. Do you have dreams that you feel like are like not fulfilled because of your addiction? Or do you feel like there were certain paths or goals that you had or visions of places that you would end up that are not real because of, does that make sense? Because of your addiction? Do you feel like there's anything specific that your addictions have stopped from happening?
Well, it's hard to say. I managed with self-medication. I managed to do pretty well in university. I graduated cum laude. My GPA was 3.5, even though I was smoking marijuana every single day and drinking like a fish.
Killer.
Like a fish.
She's a smart cookie, y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do wonder though, like, would I have graduated with honors? Like, would I have been into that kind of thing? Would I have been more serious about high school and like actually gone to university right out of high school? And like, I've thought about graduate school before, but when I was making that decision, I was very much in my addiction. I was just like, I don't even want to think about school anymore. All I want to do is smoke weed all day, every day.
I can relate with that.
And so I didn't go to graduate school. And I don't think that's I don't know. I go back and forth on if that's something that I might want to do one day, but I have no idea what I'd want to study, to be frank. And you kind of got to know that. You can't just dabble with grad school. You got to have a path. So that's one thing that I wonder about, but I don't really feel, if I hadn't been in my addiction, I don't think I would have quit my job to travel in 2016. That was very drug induced, I think. And so,
which are also some of the, I imagine, best memories of your life. Yeah,
absolutely. That's where I started rock climbing and I started surfing. Well, I surfed for the first time when I was 18 years old in Hawaii on a family trip, but I really started surfing and learning all the ins and outs, got my board, got my wetsuit when I was living in my car. And I was just trying to be Tara Smiling and follow my impulses and do what I felt would be best for me in that moment, which I think was a really good route for me to go. But I also neglected like responsibilities and like my dental health, which I have told you a little bit about, but I have gone through a similar thing that you're going through right now with my dental health because I neglected it for so long. And my mental health was bad towards the end of me living in my car. Like, it was not rainbows and butterflies at the end. I wanted out, but I had really put myself in a bad spot by that time. So I wouldn't change it. I'm glad I did it, but I don't think I would have done it without the drugs.
Interesting. I want to ask you about living in your car. That's such an interesting thing. I don't think that that's something that most people get to experience. And I have experienced homelessness, but I didn't have a car to live in. And I don't imagine it's quite the same thing that you're talking about. So why don't you tell me a little bit about living in your car?
Okay, well, in 20, that's like, gosh, there's so much there. That's
Well,
it's a loaded question because
I
I did.
I can focus you. Sorry to
That,
interrupt.
no, that's okay. Yeah. If you want to focus me, go ahead. Otherwise, you're
Um,
gonna get a huge novel.
yeah. Let's. I love the novel, but maybe later, like on our own time. Dang it, my brain is a sieve today.
Ooh,
I was asking you about
living in my car.
living in your car, and I was going to focus you. So why don't you tell me like how that came about? Like you said, it came about in a drug-induced kind of mind state.
I
So
would say
how did
so.
that idea actually come about?
Okay, so I bought this like a self-help kind of course. I forget what the name of it is. I can't remember the name of there was two women that put it out.
Hmm.
And part of it was guided meditations, and it was a very like getting to know yourself and your destiny type of course, like kind of esoteric, but rooted in reality as well. And I remember hearing something from her. I will never forget this actually, and I haven't thought about this in a very long time. One of them said something like, stop working to get to where you want to be and just start doing what it is that you want to do. And what
Whoa.
I've always wanted to do is travel. Since I mean, you know, those project, you ever do a project when you were in school and your teacher has you like journal about what you want to do when you're grown up?
Yeah.
And so I always talked about traveling. My mom
Hmm.
kept those projects. And so I like, as an adult, have gone through them and seen the things that I wrote as a child. And travel is something that constantly came up. And even as an adult, I'm just like, okay, I'm listening to this course. And I'm like, well, what I want to do is travel. And so I thought to myself, I'm just going to take this advice. And so I knew somebody that I had worked with who took a hiatus from engineering to go to Europe for 3 months and then came back to work at the same company. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do that, but I don't want to go to Europe. I want to take an epic road trip. And I thought that I was going to hostel hop and check out the cities and stuff like that. But what ended up happening the night before I left, you know, I'd quit my job already. I was ready to roll. And the night before I left, I discovered what's called dispersed camping, which is free camping. And I was like,
On federal land, right?
yeah. Well,
We've
it does.
done
Yeah.
quite a bit of that. Anyways, go ahead.
Cool. Right
Yeah.
on. Well, I wasn't sure what to expect, but one thing led to another. And before I knew it, it was way past the 3-month mark. And I started rock climbing and meeting people who were doing the same thing and started following the climbing circuit. So that I'm getting long-winded now. I'm kind of probably getting ahead of
No,
where you were
this is
asking, but
amazing. This is what we want.
yeah, it was, to answer your question, it was basically like taking advice from that course that I had invested in. And it's like, all right, I'm just going to start doing what it is that I've been dreaming about working towards.
Hell yeah. Well, my next question, I think you also answered, and it was going to be like, what was the idea behind it? Like, and it sounds like you've stumbled into it and loved it. Loved the traveling.
The idea behind traveling, you mean?
Well, yeah. Well, the freedom, right?
I loved the freedom. Yeah. And I would, it wasn't totally just, where the wind blows me the entire time, even though it kind of was. I would stop when I ran out of money. I would stop and get odd jobs in different places. So I worked, the first job I got was at a spa in Mammoth Lakes. I met some climbers who became my friends, and they worked as massage therapists at a spa in Mammoth Lakes. And so they ended up getting me a job as the front desk receptionist at a spa, which was perfect because they had a shower. They had multiple showers there and like a steam room. And so it was just really nice, actually, like a bougie spa. And I worked the front desk there for 6 months and then traveled for another period of time until I ran out of money again. And then I worked at a climbing gym in San Francisco, lived there for 6 months in my car before the pandemic. I would never do that or recommend doing that today because San Francisco has changed so much. But yeah, so it was like kind of a mixture of going where the wind blows me, but I also had responsibility at points.
Sorry, I'm multitasking. I'm not sorry. Fantastic. What a great answer. I got a lot of bang for my buck with that one. I tell you what. I've always wanted to travel like that. I've always wanted to just travel more. And I think that my experience being homeless like has scarred me. Now I feel like if I'm going to do something like that, it can't be a free fall situation. Which if I were to insert myself into the story you just told, I would have considered that a free fall situation. I have no idea what the actual logistics of what you were doing were, but definitely not as many boxes checked as I think I need to have these days. But that is definitely like a special aspiration of my heart. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's
absolutely
really cool that you got to have that experience.
Totally. And I 100% support your desire to want to travel and explore the world. I think there has to be a level of I think there's inherently a level of free fall that goes with travel,
100%, which is cool. But
I respect your wanting to plan it out and be responsible about it, because I don't think that I really was responsible. Like, I quit my job, had nothing planned, took off. I thought it was going to be for 3 months, and I ended up being in my car for 5 years. I don't recommend that, just for the record. Like, anybody listening to me, I'm not saying quit your job, travel for, live in your car. Like, I'm not. I lived in I lived in a Prius. It wasn't even a van. Like,
nice.
It was a Prius.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of mirrors on it, you know?
Yeah, but I don't recommend. Great gas mileage also. But I don't recommend it, for the record.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I don't ever want to be without again, like without a home, without like, I guess a home for one. And also like a job pays for the home. So like it ended up, the search for security led me to a complicated, convoluted, like a convoluted path, just to achieve a little security, right? Just to deal with that trauma from the being homeless. But anyways,
yeah, I feel
climbing,
you, and I can relate to it. It is traumatic being homeless, and I think a lot of people, if they haven't been through it, like, they don't understand how traumatic it can actually be, especially shelters. You've been in shelters, or one shelter or multiple shelters?
I have to think about that. The one main shelter. After that experience, I didn't want to stay in a shelter, but I stayed near shelters, if that makes sense. So I could interact with the community, get free meals, but I didn't have to stay there at night.
Okay. Do you see Kristen Melinda's question? That's not dumb. Her dumb question, which, Kristen, I don't think that's a dumb question. She says, how did you find safe places to park when you wanted to sleep? I had so many tricks, and it was so difficult in the beginning, but I was finding dispersed camping spots using different apps. I'm trying to remember what the names of the apps were. I can't even recall the names of the apps right now. But if you give me some time, I can do some research in that. But there are apps and websites. I think one of the websites named like campforfree.com or something like that, freecamping.com. But there's other ones too, and there's a really good app, Overlander. That's the name. Overlander's the best one. That's the best app to find free camping spots. And But over, like when I lived in San Francisco, for example, I wasn't using an app to figure out where to park. I got really good at finding neighborhoods that I felt safe in. And I would go to the really rich neighborhoods actually in San Francisco, and I would park in between houses so that each house would think that I was at the other person's house. I would
Nice.
get there really late and I would leave really early,
You have
like
to.
5 o'clock in the morning. I would leave and I wouldn't get there until 9 o'clock at night.
The whole plan's shot if you get woken up by someone knocking on the window. You know what I mean?
And that has happened to me
Oh
before.
yeah, it's bound to.
Yeah.
It is bound to. But it's nice to have a vehicle. I tell you what.
Yeah. Another, my favorite hack, actually, the best parking spots that I found in San Francisco, it's word of mouth. You know, you get to know people, climbers. A lot of us live in vehicles and travel around. And so when I worked at the climbing gym, after a few weeks, it took a few weeks of really bad spots, to be honest. But once I built a rapport with the people at the climbing gym, they told me some banger spots right by the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. Beautiful view of the sunsets. And I never got kicked out of that place.
Sick.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Damn. Some memories coming up.
Yeah.
Word. Sorry to call you out on that. I guess I'm not sorry though.
No, you don't have to be sorry. They're good memories. They're good memories. Yeah.
I saw something pass across your face. I wasn't quite sure what it was. So that journey was hand in hand with your addiction journey on the way down. And then you decided to get sober, or were praying to get sober, and you got sober, right? How did you get through early recovery? And how does that relate to like this space and time?
I got through early recovery with brute force, I think. So I was at a shelter. It was actually a safe house. I'll just come right out and say it was a safe house that I was placed in. I lived there for a year and it was federally funded. They required my sobriety as a prerequisite.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. So, and I had been praying to get clean and sober. I just couldn't do it on my own. And I had no idea recovery was a thing. I didn't know about meetings. Like I'd heard about them, but it's not something I thought of to like as a resource to tap into. And I was very much alone at that. I'm very embarrassed at like what I had made of my life at that point in time. I felt really trapped in living in my car and I felt kind of hopeless. Not kind of, I felt totally hopeless and couldn't stop using. And so, anyways, the safe house required my sobriety and they drug tested me every single week and breathalyzed me every week. And if I was acting a little funny, they would randomly test me, which happened a few times. But I was passed and I managed to make it to 1 year. That being said, I did not think that I would make it to 3 months clean and sober. I didn't think once I had made it to 3 months, I didn't think I'd make it to 6. I certainly didn't think I would make it a year. And I thought about leaving the safe house several times because I wanted to get high. But I was brought to my first AA meeting by the director of that safe house. I had tried to start Smart Recovery on my own, but the director of the safe house was very into AA. She's got 33 years sober in the fellowship. She's very into it. And so I went to my first meeting with her and managed to make it to a year with the requirement of my housing, was contingent, or my housing was contingent on staying clean and sober. But I did it with AA.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So you initially answered with brute force. Do you have any brute force related techniques that you'd like to share with the lifeboat?
Yeah. Well, I saw your dad go on today, and I wasn't able to get through the whole thing because I had to go to work, but I saw him talking about that 8-minute tip, which I think is a really great one. And that's something that without knowing what was happening, that's something that my first sponsor, she was my temporary sponsor, but I worked the steps all the way through with her. And that's something that she, I think, unknowingly would do to me. She's like, well, let's just talk, like when you get cravings, just call me. I'll stay on the phone with you until it passes. And so we didn't set a timer or anything like that. I didn't really know what we were doing. I don't know if she knows what we were doing, but she would sit with me on the phone until it passed. And I think, so by brute force, it was like, sometimes I just wanted to run away because it was so much. Safe houses are a chaotic place. It's not as serene as it sounds. It's not serene at all, as a matter of fact. You've got, there lots of women with a lot of trauma. And when you put us all in one place, things get pretty wild.
Oh, I bet.
And we all shared a kitchen. So, I mean, sometimes and I had a 4 o'clock, this was during the height of the pandemic, and the curfew had initially been 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, with the house. But when the pandemic hit and 2 weeks before I got there, they switched the curfew to 4 o'clock p.m.
Oh my.
Because apparently
that's a big deal. Y'all are all going to basically be cooped up for 5 hours in the evening together.
Exactly. And so it's like, why apparently COVID spikes at 4 p.m. or after 4. It didn't make any sense to me, but it is what it was. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like being required to be in that early. What's happening?
I wasn't quite sure. And I'm still not quite sure.
Is there a ruckus happening outside your door?
It's not my business. I'm going to let it go. Yes, there is quite a ruckus.
Oh, there's a ruckus. I can't really hear the ruckus.
Well, and I wish you could, because then I wouldn't look so stupid turning around, but it's fine. I'm not going to go out there. So why do I even care, right? It's like, am I going to go break it up? No. Well, then shut your mouth, Mike, and get back to your business, right?
Yeah. I think we talked about that in the chat. The most valuable lesson I learned in the shelters is to mind my own business.
Yeah. I mean, and living in some of the places that I've lived in and being a part of some of the communities I've been a part of, it's definitely sometimes a very, very good idea to just mind your own business.
100%.
I've broken up a fight between a guy and his girlfriend, and where a dude was way out of line. I'm not going to get into details, right? But then I'm being assaulted by the woman. So I just don't mess around anymore. I don't do stuff like that anymore. If two humans are getting into it, unless I am like share blood with one of these, or, consider them my family, it's not my business. So.
Good rule of thumb. That's a good rule of thumb. And sometimes even when it is family, but.
Sometimes you got to let those go too, unfortunately.
Sometimes you got to let that go. That's true.
I've been seeing some really cool questions. But I think I'm just going to get to my next question, because I'll get lost in those. We can totally look at them if you want.
Your call, Captain.
You spoke about being depressed. I was looking at your videos today, and I will say before I ask you, I watched a video of you where you were markedly less smiling than you normally are. And it was like a physical difference too. Like you looked pale and like you looked unwell, like you were sick. And I feel like I have physical reactions when I am like really sad, when I'm like really, I don't know, do I call it depressed? I don't even know. I don't know. But when I'm in that place, I definitely feel like it has large repercussions for me physically, not just mentally or emotionally, right? Do you want to talk about depression in your life at all?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. So yeah, I am doing significantly better. I think you used the word markedly. I think that's accurate. I'm doing so much better today than I was in those early videos. I was not okay when I first started making videos on YouTube, and I wanted to document that process because my nurse practitioner had started talking with me about a treatment that she thought might help, but I could not afford it. And so we kept talking about it every time we would meet. And I just kept telling her, I just can't afford it. Like, I'm not making enough money to be able to pay for this treatment. And so I would say that my mental health recovery journey has helped me get from there to here. And I feel like myself again. I feel the way I felt during the first few years of traveling when I was self-medicating and really enjoying the journey. You know, that Tara smiling vibe. I feel like I have found that again because in my opinion, I'm properly medicated, and it has made a huge difference. Now, part of my medication journey includes ketamine treatment. And for me, and it's not for everybody, I'm not a medical health professional. This is not medical advice. For me personally, with my psychology, it has been a game changer. And I've also put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into my recovery, both substance misuse and my mental health recovery, including therapy and building a support system and taking care of my body and eating well and meditating and all of the things, journaling, you know, all of the things. And so I can say, and as you pointed out, thinking about where I was several months ago and seeing, it's cringy for me to even go back. I can't even watch those old videos because it's just like, yikes. I hate that I was there, but I'm so happy.
It's hard, right?
It's nearly impossible. And like you were talking about, I don't know if you saw my comment this morning, you were talking about that feeling of your body being heavy when you get out of bed. And I used to feel that also. It's actually, there's a name for it. It's called lead limb. And I had that same thing. Even when I got close to the chemical cocktail that my nurse practitioner prescribes me these days, the lead limb didn't go away until I started ketamine treatment, and it's gone now. As soon as I got my first treatment, it was immediate. The next day I woke up and didn't feel heavy anymore.
I have only abused ketamine, and I've only abused ketamine maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. And the infrequency or low number there is probably due to my alcoholism. It's just not a fun thing to do when you're already drunk. Tell us about the ketamine. I've heard tell of it used to treat depression for a few years now. I've heard it used medicinally in a bunch of applications that are new. You're the first person that I've talked to that's actually undergone it themselves.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. So I want to preface my perspective of the treatment with that it's not for everybody. If it's something that you're thinking of, definitely consult with a medical healthcare professional who has experience with it. For me, it has been the difference between feeling the lead limb, feeling hopeless, feeling like things were never going to get better and I was just going to be stuck in this funk forever and not make anything of my life and waste time and the difference between that and having motivation again, having drive, it's like the spark, you know, the sauce, the spicy, the special,
a little something.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Exactly. It's that little something, that little spark that you can't quite put your finger on that motivates and pushes us to want to do things in life. I wouldn't say that I'm fully back there. I'm still very much in the process. Like, I better get on my surfboard this summer. People who know me know that that's probably the most important thing to me right now is that I hop back in the water. And I hope that I do.
Well,
go ahead.
Good luck. I know you will. It's just a matter of time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. But so short answer is that ketamine treatment has given me the motivation and drive to do the things that I want to do in life instead of feeling stuck and trapped inside my own body like my life is wasting away.
Had you done ketamine recreationally or at all before discovering it as a treatment?
I've never done ketamine recreationally, but I
Hmm.
have done a lot of hallucinogenics.
Hmm.
But I
Would you
would
say
go ahead.
that it's similar to anything that you had done when you had your first experience?
Yeah, the first experience was the most intense. I don't trip anymore, but in the beginning, and I have some videos on this on my channel. I documented like the first and second, third trip, and
Really?
they were full blown trips. Yeah,
Oh my
I have a
Lord.
ketamine playlist on my channel,
Hmm.
and yeah, the
Trigger
first,
warning, eh?
definitely trigger warning if you've had a problem with it. Like don't watch it. Um, yeah, trigger warning for sure. And I apologize if that did trigger anybody.
No, no, no
For
sweat.
for me, not having ever abused it before, like it didn't trigger me at all. I was a little nervous about it, and some people from the AA fellowship challenged me on my sobriety status. Like, have you thought
They,
about how this is going to affect your sobriety?
they'll do that.
Yeah, and I almost didn't want to do it for a period of time, but then I was like, you know what? I have tried literally everything else. My nurse practitioner is suggesting this because she thinks it will work for me, and I've failed so many other treatments. And so failed meaning they didn't work for me. SSRIs, SNRIs, I have treatment resistant depression. So traditional methods don't work for me. And I had been in therapy for a few years at this point. So um, it was psychedelic the first few trips, and it was similar, to answer your question, it was similar to um, somewhere in between a mushroom, like a psilocybin trip, and a LSD trip. Not as intense as LSD, not as mild as psilocybin.
I
But it
like it.
was familiar to me, though. I feel very comfortable in that space, to be frank.
I like your description of psilocybin as mild. Um, well, cool, dude. I always wondered to myself because I've been hearing like that they've been using psilocybin for treatments. I've been hearing that people will do ayahuasca. I've been hearing that this ketamine thing is now being backed by real doctors and actually being done in the country. And I haven't learned anything about it. So thank you for sharing that with me because I just learned a whole ton, like firsthand experience, right? So I have a secondhand account now, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about ketamine that not a lot of people are aware of, I wasn't aware of it before I started treatment, is that there's a lot of downtime associated with it. Like if y'all have
Recovery.
recovery time, yeah, I am pretty out of it. And I signed a waiver with my nurse practitioner that I will not operate a vehicle for 24 hours after treatment. I'm pretty tired for 24 hours after treatment. Like I'm just starting to feel like myself about 24 hours later. It's not an intoxicating experience. It's not a huge dose like people do recreationally. And I don't even trip anymore. I'm at the highest dose, and we're not going to increase it, but I still get the therapeutic benefits from it. But the downtime is something that I didn't really understand, and it's the only thing I don't like about treatment is that I'm kind of out of the game of life for about 24 hours after, but I get so much benefit the other 5.5 days of the week that it's worth it to me.
What's the outlook for this treatment? Is this something that you do until you don't? Is it something you're going to have to do forever if you want to keep getting the benefits from? Is it something that eventually your body will click or something?
So everyone is different. Ketamine has a compounding effect. So that means that
Multiplicative.
the longer I do it, the more benefits I get over time. That being said, some people will stop after 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 12, however many treatments your physician or prescriber wants to give you. I've been doing this for about 5 months now, pretty much weekly. A few weeks, there was a couple weeks in between, and I was okay, but I'm doing really well with weekly treatment. I do treatment in clinics every other week, and that's intramuscular injections that I get. And then I have my experience in my nurse practitioner's office. But I also have at-home treatment, which they're called troches, like at-home ketamine. It's a sublingual type of, like, it's not a tablet, but you take it sublingually, you put it under your tongue, and I have my experience at home during the in-between weeks when I'm not having treatment in the clinic. So I get treatment weekly. That's what my nurse practitioner has prescribed to me. And I've been wanting to kind of ask her, like, hey, when do you think that we can try to see if I don't need this anymore, just to get my weekends back, because my weekends are dedicated to treatment right now.
So it's basically 2 days.
Pretty much, yeah.
The
like
day of treatment and the day after.
Pretty much.
For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. By the evening, the day after treatment, I'm back to doing dishes and cleaning the house and making dinner and stuff like that. But the night of treatment, I pop some tamales in my crock pot and I'm not cooking anything.
Say that again. I was reading a comment. I'm sorry.
Tamales in the crock pot. No cooking on treatment nights.
Okay. I was like, wait a second. You put stuff in the crock pot, but you're not cooking it.
Well, okay.
Just sitting and is it being stored?
Frozen tamales. I get frozen tamales.
Yeah.
I get frozen tamales from Trader Joe's, and I don't have a microwave. Similar to you, well, same as you. I don't have a microwave, but I figured out that I can put frozen tamales in my crock pot for 60 to 90 minutes, and they're perfection.
I love tamales. I might have to go get some frozen ones. I don't know if I've ever got frozen ones from, like, do you get them from the store or do you have a tamale lady?
Trader Joe's.
I'll have to go down there. What am I supposed to get? Peanut butter cups?
Yeah, dark chocolate peanut butter cups. Okay. That's number one. And then number two, tamales.
Thank you very much, Tara.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure. You got to report back to me on that too. I really want to know what you think.
And tamales, okay.
Yeah.
My brain is discombobulated. No, this is great though. I'm learning a lot, and it provokes many, many thoughts, lots of thinking. Just saw a question.
Really quick, if I can, with the tamales, make sure you read the labels, because I thought one time that I was grabbing a chicken and cheese tamale, but I grabbed like a green chili and cheese, and I wanted meat in them, but I got the vegetarian version. So they're all together in the same spot in the freezer section. So just make sure you know what you're grabbing.
Well, good looking out. Definitely. I spend way too much time reading labels. I don't know if I even use all the information. It is a good habit, and I do like to know what I'm consuming, but half the information is just immediately thrown out. I feel like I could.
Also, just with the tamale thing, I feel like I have to tell you this because I might not remember to tell you later. Put a little bit of water, just a little bit, in the crock pot and wrap the tamales in paper towels, just like you would do it in the microwave. But yeah, put a little bit of water in the crock pot. Otherwise they won't steam.
And do you have, does it say on the package what to do in a crock pot, or do you make it up? You put it on low, right?
So no, the last building put it on high, unless you want it to take a couple, like 2.5 or 3 hours. Put it on high for 60 to 90 minutes. 60 will work fine, but it can stay in there for probably as long as you want it to stay in there, and they'll be fine. But at least 60 minutes. And the last building I lived in, I had a communal kitchen that closed at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
But I had a kitchenette in my studio. And so I learned to cook everything in a crock pot, everything.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, you can. It's better than, if you have one dish, it's much better than a frying pan, although I prefer the frying pan, I think.
If you have a burner. But
if you don't have a burner, there's no point in having the frying pan at all.
Right, but the crock pot.
The crock pot. I'm pretty sure I left my crock pot in Salt Lake because I let it get dirty and I didn't want to clean it. It was really bad. But I regret that. I regret that. I obviously have space for a crock pot here.
Dude, you just rinse it out. Rinse it out right after you take stuff out of it, and then
what do you do with the science experiment that's growing inside it?
You could use white vinegar. I like to use white vinegar if there's a science experiment happening. Or if you...
What does white vinegar do?
It breaks mold.
When you say break, you mean like releases it into the air? Like it breaks it down and makes
Hopefully
it a
not.
marathon?
You don't want that to happen.
Well, no, you don't.
What you could do what you could do is take some vinegar and dilute it with some water. Maybe if you've got a science project going, maybe like a 50-50 mix would be a good idea. Let it sit in there for a little while and then dump it out in the sink, and then like use a scrubby that you're
Oh,
gonna.
it'll like break it down. Okay, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
you can save it. You can save
Okay.
it for sure.
Well, it's gone. It's in Salt Lake in some probably at the dump at this point. It's a couple
Oh,
months ago. So
so sad.
there's no science experiments in this home. There never have been, and there never will be. As far as that kind of experiment, we left those in Salt Lake for sure. I think that's most of my stuff, man. We can circle back to the notes that I took, and well, I guess so. That brings us to now. That brings us to present day Tara. And obviously, we didn't do your whole life story, but the points that I wanted to hit, we got through, and now we're in the present day. So now I want to ask you, you've gone on this journey, right? We pretty much covered a big span of years, 5+ years, right? Probably way more than that. How long?
Well, we talked about being 15 and 16
No, I guess
starting.
that's
So
right. So we're
really,
talking about like 20+ years. So
yeah, 20, yeah, over 20 years. Yeah.
What does now in the rearview mirror, what does recovery mean to you? What does addiction mean to you? I probably should have asked those one at a time, but that's okay.
So the questions are, what does recovery mean to
What
me,
does
and what
recovery
does
mean to you
addiction
now?
mean to you?
Yeah.
Recovery to me means enjoying life, living life to the fullest. I'm hoping that it means being able to engage in activities that bring me joy and enrich my life and bring balance to my life. Like the surfing is something I haven't got back to yet, but I really am hoping that in a few weeks, because it's starting to warm up. It's been really cold here. I'm in Central Cali, and the water is really cold right now from the winter. But the next few weeks, I'm thinking my wetsuit will be enough blubber to allow me to get out into the water. So my recovery means being able to be proud of who I am and what I'm doing with my life. And your other question was, what does addiction mean to me?
Yeah. Like now that you've walked this path, you're this far removed from it, right? 3 years and some change.
Yeah.
It looks quite a bit different, I would imagine. So that's why I asked.
I think addiction to me is a hopeless place that I don't ever want to be again. Addiction is being out of control of my life. It's isolation, lack of connection with friends, with family, no support system. God, even just like thinking about it gives me goosebumps. It makes me really sad that I lived my life that way, because the last 2 years living in my car, I was super isolated. I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to connect with anybody. And I thought everyone else had a problem. I was the one who had it figured out, and everybody else was screwed up, and I needed to be alone in order to exist in the world. And that's no way to live.
I've been there, believe it or not. Believe it or not. Dude, how cool. How cool. I don't even think you said you had questions for me. I have all this stuff to circle back to. It's like time to shut her down. I have one more question. I can.
Sure. So to be clear, everyone, I brought questions just in case we got through all the questions really fast. I was like, I'm going to come prepared with some questions for Spanks, but we don't have to get to those. We can even save those for another time. Or
I would love to interview you again. There's obviously much more to Tara than an hour could possibly fill of us talking. So,
well, I would definitely open to that. I think that would be great.
Did you say you spent 5 years living in your car?
Yep.
Meditation is something that you're into.
Yeah.
I struggle to meditate. I benefit from it very highly. My brain, especially, I shared with Tara when we were pre-show, and it was just us and we were not live. I shared with her that today I discovered and admitted to myself that I'm addicted to one, YouTube, like videos and shorts and just, swiping, and two, probably video games. And recognizing like the patterns in my brain when I'm playing games or watching YouTube stuff is crazy and wild. I can't remember why I started bringing this up, but meditation. What happens to my brain when I'm in that rabbit hole of YouTube or of playing video games? It's the same exact thought pattern that like meditation takes me away from, if that makes sense. Like meditation is a cure for the brain tornado in my head. It is a process. It's like stretching. I can't just have a really good stretching session and then be all better. It doesn't work like that, right? I have to continually meditate. I have to continually practice this, and the tornado slows and slows and slows and slows over time. And it's something that I have not employed into my routine at all. So I'm really glad that I asked you about your interests, because I used to be a meditator. I used to go out and seek spots. I had intended to ask you about your favorite spots on your Instagram journeys and some of your favorite locations, but I guess we'll have to maybe come back.
Ooh, did you make a note of that question
I have all of it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm very studious these days.
Good.
I never was as a kid, but I know how to succeed, and it's by taking notes and practicing and then doing it right.
That's right. You got it figured out. Well, I want to answer Lovett's question. How long do these treatments last? The treatment itself is about a 90-minute to 2-hour experience. But then, like I mentioned, recovery lasts for about 24 hours after that.
So you said it's a 90-minute experience?
Yeah, to about 2. I usually spend about 2 hours in clinic. But when I do it at home, the at-home version's a little lighter, less intense than the in-clinic intramuscular injection that I get. And so it's about 90 minutes.
So you said you do normally do your treatment at your doctor's office. Is it like a white wall building, like a hospital?
Yeah, and they put us in straight jackets too. No.
Don't tell me that.
I'm just joking. I'm joking. Just kidding. No, it's actually.
No, you're good.
My nurse practitioner has some serious style, and her office feels like a spa. It's really, really nice.
It must, because I could never, ever, ever, like, what is it called? Like, pull the anchor up on my brain. You know what I mean? If my brain was a ship, I could never do that in a doctor's office. I could be like, all right, we're not attached anymore. Whatever happens. Like, I'm definitely not down.
See, that I don't feel that. People talk, it's a dissociative anesthetic. I've never felt dissociated or confused. Like, it just, I don't know if it's because
it might have to do with our neurodivergence. I've had that thought too. It might not even affect me like it's supposed to affect people, because I have that experience with other stuff.
Well, to be clear, I get absolute therapeutic benefits. And even though I'm not having a psychedelic experience anymore, it's really what I experience is like a very deep meditation when I have treatment these days. But even though I'm not tripping anymore, I still get therapeutic benefits throughout the week.
Well, I imagine, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, right?
No, absolutely not.
That's so interesting. I'll have to do some of my own research. I don't think that that's something that's for me, but I definitely don't feel like happy sometimes, and that's probably normal, but
another thing, on the heels of a question you asked me earlier, my nurse practitioner, I had to sign a waiver that I wouldn't get pregnant while I was like, you can't get pregnant while you're taking ketamine. So if I ever choose to have children, I'll have to stop treatment at that point if I don't stop before then. But I would like to talk to my nurse practitioner about stopping for a period of time to see if I can, just if I'm, better, or maybe I can make it a few months in between the next treatment, and then I don't have to spend my weekends this way anymore.
Well, good luck with that. Let us know, keep us updated. Thank you for coming on. I'm probably just going to keep you on here. And I'm just going to do my outro or whatever with you, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah. Well, heck yeah, guys. What an interview, huh? What do you guys think? Can we keep her? I really enjoyed that. I smiled a lot less than I thought I would, but it's because we really hit a lot of deep notes. I guess we got our smiles in the beginning and the end, so that's good.
It's nice to see. It's nice to see you smile. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I try to let it rip. I've been told many times throughout my life that I have a great smile, but I have this like tooth dead front right now that's like it looks terrible to me. Other people tell me it's not that bad. I feel like they're being nice, but I hate looking at it. So maybe I just need to quit looking at my smile and let it go. Let it rip because I'm a smiley guy. Looking at myself for so much time every day really brings your tooth to like the front of your brain, like I could definitely see my smile anytime if I just think about it because I see it. So anyways, hit that like, subscribe, and the bell for notifications if you like what we do here. It certainly helps out on our end. Zelda Z, good to see you. SB, I didn't say hello earlier. Hey.
Oh yeah, there was no roll call.
I did roll call while you were.
Oh, you did. Okay.
You probably couldn't hear me in the back, huh?
No. Well, I think I could. I think I just forgot, maybe.
We did roll call before everybody showed up too, but I've been clicking on them. Zaphod, conversations with Christy. Carol needs a meeting. The gang's really all here. Casey, Izzy E. I saw Davy's name in there. Mr. Ray hanging in there. Teresa Baldessari.
So nice to see everybody here.
Oh, my stomach hurts. Okay. You guys have a good night. I'm getting out of here. Tara, you want to hang out and talk for a sec?
Yeah, for sure.